This is John Wydogan, and this is the Natural Freedom League. Moral Law Monday number 16. 16 weeks in a row I've been sitting out here in Pleasant Hill, California with my signs to try to plant seeds about moral law and understanding objective morality and how that's the only solution to our problems. We can keep voting different people in, but until we all start from within and work without and continue to strive to behave morally and do no harm to others, then the system will perpetuate itself. We will be complicit in it, and that's why I'm out here, to get that message out. So, the sign and the message for today is: order following is inherently immoral. And on the back side, we are accountable for all of our actions. I'm going to read a quote from Mark Passio, a teacher of natural law and true anarchy. He says, "Order followers are the people who keep the existence of slavery in place, not the ruling class, not the masters, not the so-called elite, which aren't the elite of anything but the bottom of a trash can. The people who keep slavery in place are the ones who willfully follow their orders. That's fact, not an opinion. But no one wants to hear that, and people will hate you for saying it. Following orders means, by definition, doing what you are told to do without judging for yourself whether that action is actually right or wrong." So, if you are in a career where you try to abdicate your responsibility to use your conscience, then you are engaging in an immoral activity. And I wanted to talk about this because possibly this may be the last Moral Law Monday here in front of the monument for the time being, because daylight savings time is going to happen. We're going to fall back this Sunday, so it may be too dark out here for me to come out. But I will continue to do some form of Moral Law Monday, regardless of what I decide to do in terms of this location. But I thought this location was a good place, because what better symbol for the immorality of government and of the state than a monument to fallen soldiers who have been indoctrinated to believe that it's somehow moral to give up your responsibility to use your conscience and take on this role. And again, people are going to hate to hear people say that, but it's the reality of the situation. If you're doing a job and you're told to do something immoral and you say, well, I'm just doing my job, it doesn't take that action off of your karmic record. You will be held accountable for that at some point. And in the aggregate, as a collective, until we all start accepting that responsibility to use our conscience in every moment, then we will continue having the world that we have and the prison state controlling us. I also wanted to read a little bit more from The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose, where he talks about this issue. The effects on the enforcers. Following orders. The lawmakers give the commands, but it is their faithful enforcers who carry them out. Millions upon millions of otherwise decent, civilized people spend day after day harassing, threatening, extorting, controlling, and otherwise oppressing others who have not harmed or threatened anyone. But because the actions of such law enforcers are deemed legal, and because they believe they are acting on behalf of authority, they imagine themselves to bear no responsibility for their actions. In fact, they do not even view their own actions as being their own actions. They speak and act as if their minds and bodies have somehow been taken over by some invisible entity called the law or government. They say things like, "Hey, I don't make the laws, I just enforce them. It's not up to me." They speak and act as if it is impossible for them to do anything other than helplessly carry out the will of a power called authority, and that they are therefore no more personally responsible for their actions than a puppet is responsible for what the puppeteer makes it do. When acting in their official capacity while seemingly helplessly possessed by the spirit of authority, law enforcers behave in ways which they never otherwise would, and do things that they themselves would recognize as uncivilized, violent, and evil if they did such things on their own, without an authority telling them to. Examples of this occur all over the world, every hour of every day, in a wide variety of ways. A soldier might shoot a complete stranger whose only sin was to be out walking in a militarily occupied zone after a declared curfew. A group of heavily armed men might kick down someone's door and drag him away, or shoot a man in front of his wife and children because the man grew a plant which politicians proclaimed to be forbidden, illegal. A bureaucrat might file paperwork instructing a financial institution to take thousands of dollars out of someone's bank account in the name of tax collection. Another bureaucrat may send in armed thugs upon finding out that someone had the gall to build a deck on his own property with the approval of his neighbors, but without government approval in the form of a building permit. A traffic cop may stop and extort someone via a ticket for having a broken taillight. A TSA agent may frisk someone and rummage through his personal belongings without the slightest reason to suspect that the person has done or is doing or is going to do anything wrong. A judge may direct armed thugs to put someone in a cage for weeks, months, or years for anything from showing contempt for the judge to driving without the written permission of politicians in the form of a driver's license to having engaged in any type of mutually voluntary but non-politician sanctioned illegal commerce. These examples and literally millions of others which could be given are acts of aggression committed by perpetrators who would not have committed them if they had not been directed to do so by a perceived authority. In short, most instances of theft, assault, and murder happen only because authority told someone to steal, attack, or kill. Most of the time, the people who carry out such orders would not have committed such crimes on their own. Of the 100,000 people who work for the Internal Revenue Service, how many engaged in harassment, extortion, and theft before becoming IRS agents? Few, if any. How many soldiers went around harassing, threatening, or killing people they did not know before joining the military? Few, if any. How many police officers regularly went around stopping, interrogating, and kidnapping non-violent people before becoming law officers? Holy shit. Wow. They turned that wind turbine on. Anyway, let's see where I was. When such acts of aggression become legal and are done in the name of law enforcement, those who commit them imagine such acts to be inherently legitimate and valid, even though they recognize that had they committed the very same acts on their own, instead of on behalf of authority, the acts would have constituted crimes and would have been immoral. While there are obviously more significant and less significant cogs in the wheels of the government machine, from low-key paper pushers to armed mercenaries, they all have two things in common. They inflict unpleasantness on others in a way they would not have done on their own. And two, they accept no personal responsibility for their actions while in law enforcer mode. Nothing makes this more obvious than the fact that when the properness or morality of their actions is called into question, their response is almost always some variation of, "I'm just doing my job." The obvious implication in all such statements is this: I am not responsible for my actions because authority told me to do this. The only way that makes a shred of sense is if the person is literally incapable of refusing to do something a perceived authority tells him to do. Unfortunately, the horrific truth is that most people, as a result of their authoritarian indoctrination, do seem to be psychologically incapable of disobeying the commands of an imagined authority. Most people, given the choice between doing what they know is right and doing what they know is wrong when ordered to do so by a perceived authority, will do the latter. Nothing demonstrates this more clearly than the results of the psychology experiments done by Stanley Milgram in the 1960s. And I'm going to leave you with that, folks. It's a little windy and crazy out here, but look up the Milgram experiments. All right, everybody. The other thing I wanted to say is look up the thickredline.org and support that organization, which is trying to work with police officers, law enforcement officials, and get them to stop obeying or enforcing victimless crimes. And remember that order following is inherently immoral, and we are all accountable for all of our actions. All right, everybody. Always remember to put something good in the air. Peace.